Hello everyone. So thank you to be here today. So I'm going to start with a few questions. Who already use generative AI, like a service like ChatGPT, for personal use? Okay. So I'm not surprised. Do you use it for personal use or professional or both? Okay. What kind of platform do you use? You always use ChatGPT, or in your enterprise you have your own secure generative AI? ChatGPT? Not? Okay. Internal. Okay. Okay. I guess you are all familiar with Google Cloud platforms? Yep. Okay. Do you already use Vertex AI services from Google? Oh, cool. So that means that you're going to learn something, at least. So today we are going to explore how to build your own secure generative AI with Google Cloud Platform, and especially with the Vertex AI. So a little bit word about myself. So my name is Ekarat. I'm a business and technology architect. Today it's 2 years now. Today it's been 2 years that I'm coming in Canada, so in Montreal with my family. We have moved. I come from France, and most of my time I'm doing some architecture with client, and I'm independent, so I'm freelancer. Here we go. So today we are going to talk about generative AI, how it has been transforming our life. Why do we need to secure, in fact, the way we use generative AI? For what and how? And what's coming next after that? So what's the next trend in generative AI? So let's start with this modern fairy tale about ChatGPT. So once upon a time, there was a technology revolution that took the world by storm. So for now, everything we thought was not possible, and we can, just by prompting something with a text, we can generate some content like image, like text, and we can discover a lot of things that seems to be complicated since now. And with ChatGPT, it's like we touch a new way to use our technology. So he has changed a lot and very quickly the way that we use technology. And also for the enterprise, it's generative AI come to generalize, in fact, the word AI, and this creates a new opportunity for business. But I don't know if you are familiar with the Samsung case. No. When ChatGPT come over, there was a data leak from Samsung. So you have a lot of employees who are starting to use ChatGPT, the public services, and they use it in their day-to-day life. They use it to prompt to get some information to help them into their work, and they leak some confidential data. What they didn't know at this time, that everything data that has been pushed in ChatGPT is being used to train ChatGPT to be better. So information from Samsung has been retrieved in an answer coming from ChatGPT. So it was a really leak information because people didn't know how to use generative AI correctly, and didn't know, well, at least they didn't read in fact all the terms and conditions. Surely somewhere in all the pages that has been written somewhere that all data that's provided by ChatGPT is used to train, at least the public services, is used to train the model. So please remember that when it's free, you are the product. So this incident has made relative suddenly that the company has been so compromised with crucial information. So people are starting to be doubt about generative AI, but they want to use it, and the question is how. At the same time, it's not starting yet. So we have ChatGPT, and then in less than 1 year or two, we have at least 50 LLMs model who appears in the market, each competing with each other, and say that he is better than the other one. So we have an increase of LLM, so we don't know which one to use it. It's going to be ChatGPT, it's going to be Llama, Gemini, or Anthropic. And on top of that, we have every company that's starting to switch to be AI company, meaning that they use AI words to say that now my solution is AI. So don't know what does it mean, but they put AI everywhere in their world. So most of the time, it's just that we can prompt into the application, and they will use the application to do the job for us. So for now, we're going to know how the company has to navigate into this new ecosystem and this new technology. So what they know that they want to use generative AI, they think that generative AI can bring us some value into their value chains. So then they need to know how to operate this new technology. So what they want also is to be able to minimize the risks and maximize their benefits by using generative AI. So that's why most of the company, what they do a framework governance. This framework will be used, in fact, to know how we are going to use generative AI into the company. So before starting to think about innovating with generative AI, we must start first to think about what generative AI is going to bring into the company for the everyday day-to-day work or into the solution that we sell. So for that, we are going to build a governance around 4 pillars. The first one will be the visions. So the company has to regroup herself to know what Gen AI is going to bring into their vision, into their goal, into their goal, and what they're going to gain about generative AI. So they need to understand what is generative AI and to build KPIs to understand what the value generative AI is going to bring to them. So for the value, then when you know to have your visions, you have to build the values to build the value. So how you are going to infuse generative AI into your company? At what level? You have also to mitigate risk. You need to have to ensure that there is no data leak. You are also be in concordance with the local registration. Like for example, in the European, now we have an AI Act, which means that you have to be careful about how you use generative AI. You also need to have skills. There's a new type of skills that has been emerged with generative AI, which is the prompt engineer. So it's someone who is going to be able to talk with these LLMs, and also technologies. So to run an LLM's models, it's not just to having one PC around the corner and put an LLM models. You need some powerful device. You need some GPUs. And the last is the adoptions. So concerning the adoption, the important is to implement the initiative of using generative AI. You need to align, in fact, you need to align IT, which is providing all the technical stacks, and the business to be sure that they will use correctly the product, the technology that will serve us. And you also need to sensibilize and train your employee to use it correctly, generative AI. So now that we see that we need to bring some governance around generative AI, so now we have to see what use case and how. So most of the time we have the same use case that's running around for now around generative AI. So the common use case, the first one is content creation. So meaning that from a prompt, you will be able to generate some other writing, some text. You can also bring some speech. You can build some audio, images, video, and also you can code with generative AI. Then you have the content discovery. Content discovery is a way that you are going to use natural language to search into your knowledge base. It is a way that you will be able to retrieve information more easily than to read documents, than to use maybe a search engine that you have. And with a natural language, you'll be easy to have a quick and short answer. The third one use case is chatbot. So chatbot was a little bit deprecated last year, but with generative AI is coming back to the front. Now we used to talk with chatbot, with natural language, and to have really a pertinent answer for what we are asking. And assistants are going smarter than he was before. And the last was AI simulation. So with generative AI, now we can help to train, in fact, our own AI models, like synthetic data. I don't know if you heard about it. It's a way that we generate, in fact, new content to train an AI model. So it's not us that we provide the data to use to be trained, but we use generative AI to create this data to train, in fact, our models. It's a new way also to improve, in fact, AI model that we already have. So if we already use AI. So now we are going to be a little bit more technical. So now we are going to build how we are going to build, in fact, all to provide, in fact, services that will allow us, in fact, to provide this kind of service for the company. So first, we are going to start by the bottom. So we need infrastructure. So we need some servers where we are going to be able to deploy the LLM models. We have also need data on which the LLM and the services could rely on. So we need some kind of data lake where we are going to have the data that we want the services to be used to expose to the final users. And on top of that, we are going to build what we call a LLM mesh. LLM mesh, in fact, is a way that we are going to be able to provide several different LLM. It could be open source LLM, custom LLM, or private LLM. It's a way that we are going to use, in fact, to not choose a specific one, but we want to allow to be used any kind of LLM that we judge to be useful for the task we want to do. To be sure that we can use this LLM, we are going to build a common API to talk with this LLM. So we will have only one entry point that will be able to talk with different LLM. And we have the last one, which is a vector store. It's a way to store documentation to make some advanced search with a vector store, in which we are going to store documentation, and we are going to use LLMs with a vector store to build answer. Once this this building blocks LLM mesh is built, we are going to have what we call services. So the services for now is going to be the common service that we have identified. So the content generation, the discovery, and the conversation. So the three services are going to use beneath, they are going to use the LLM to be able to do their jobs. But not only the LLM, we'll see what we also need to be able to build these services. All these services will be exposed through an API gateway to be consumed by the final application. So we can imagine that we have some internal apps, maybe some human resources application, some sales application, in which we want to infuse generative AI. So we can use the API to build some module into this application. Or we can build from scratch generative AI application to be used. Or we can also build a studio like Google AI Studio, in which we are going to regroup, in fact, all these services into one single point. One thing is important is to know how we use these services. So we need to have a building blocks for observability. So the building blocks, generative AI services and LLM mesh, we're going to push, in fact, all information into the observability building blocks in which we are going to manage the security, the monitoring of the application, and to have some KPIs through reporting. So how to build this architecture that I have presented you on the previous slide. So since we are on a Google developer group, so Google Platform is a solution. So we are going to see how we are going to be able to use GCP to bring up all this platform. So let's go. So first, for the compute and the data layer, so from an infrastructure point of view, So we will use Compute Engine to deploy LLM models. We can also use Cloud Run with this new feature, which is Cloud Run with GPUs. It's still in beta, but this will allow you, in fact, to simply deploy LLMs on Cloud Run. And all this technology will be based, in fact, on the GPU and TPU providing by the Google infrastructure. And from the data lake point of view, we will use all the data solutions, like the database with Cloud MySQL, Firestore, BigQuery to store data to do analysis, and Google Cloud Storage to store informations, documentations, to train and augment LLMs. For the LLM mesh, so for the private LLM, we are going to use Vertex AI Model Garden. So it's some kind of marketplace where you can, in fact, use Google to deploy for you your LLM models. You have just to choose which LLM models you want to use, and Model Garden will, beneath, do the deployment for you. Custom LLM, so for that we can use Cloud Run with GPUs. And finally, for the vector store, Google has announced that all their solution for data is going to handle, in fact, vector store. So we will be able to manage vectorial data into BigQuery, Cloud SQL, or Firestore. Everyone know about vector store? For the generative AI part, so services, for the discovery, what we are going to do, there is two ways to manage, in fact, this. You can use Vertex AI Agent Builder to create this kind of services, or you can use LangChain to build your own RAG. So everyone familiar with LangChain and RAG? Yes? Okay. So just to know, RAG is a technology that will allow you, in fact, to ground an LLM to use your own data to answer an questions. That will, in fact, simplify for you the way that you don't have to fine-tune your LLMs, but just a trick to ground the LLM to only answer to the data that you will send to the LLM. So LangChain is a framework built to provide you this kind of all the tools, all the framework to build, in fact, a RAG. For the content, if you want to do some generation or some evaluation, you can use the Google IC services. You have visions for images to extract some signification on text. You have document AI. You have speech to text or text to speech that you can use. And for the conversation part, so to build your own chatbot, you can use Vertex AI Agent Builder, or you can also build your own chatbot with LangChain. Observability. So for the security, we will secure the platform with the IAM provided by Google. So it will allow us to filtering who is going to access so different bricks, what right, what role do we have. We will also use the command center to detect any intrusion, to detect any misconfiguration on the platform. And for the monitoring, we use Google Cloud Login, Google Cloud Monitoring for observability, and Google Trust to be able to see if there is any latency issue between the API and the LLM performance. For the reporting, what we're going to do is to store, in fact, all the relevant information into BigQuery and use Looker Studio to build on top of this BigQuery to provide KPIs for a more reporting point of view. So now we are going to see a different use case on top of that. So the first one is how we are going to build multi-LLM, so in the LLM mesh, using the Google technology. First, we are going to, in the Model Garden, so we are going to enable the different LLM that we want to use. You have two types of deployment that's going to be happen. One is the deployment that Google handle for you, and the other one, so that means that is going to be from billing point of view is going to be pay as you go. So it's going, if you use the model, you are going to pay for each call. And the other one is going to be is going to deploy on the virtual machine all the model, and you are going to pay, in fact, the compute engine on which the model is running. These two types of deployment that Model Garden is providing, following the language model that you are going to use. And if you want something more using open source or custom LLM, you can use Cloud One with GPUs, on which you can install Ollama and deploy all the open source model that you want, that's delivered by Ollama. And to access to this LLM that you have been deployed on Model Garden, you will be able to access it through Vertex AI endpoint, which is an API that's going to be furnished by the Vertex AI framework, in which you are going to be able to interrogate which LLM that you want, each model that you want. And on top of that, you will run a Cloud Run API, in which we are going to create an API, a generic API, which is going to be able to talk with any kind of model that you want. Maybe we can have a look. I think I'm going to change. This will be easier if I have the screen in front of me. I will just change. I will use a copy. Do you have any questions? Since I'm trying to.
Sorry, I just want to ask, if you didn't go over it yet, why do we need multiple LLMs? Is this the custom and the private one that you mentioned before, or the multiple LLM is that you're going to train each one on a different domain, and then your chatbot is capable of like answering questions from different domains? Or like, what is the...
Most of the time when we want to use a multiple LLM is because there is a lot of model. Some model can be specialized into specific tasks, and other is more generic. And one day is going to be ChatGPT, was going to be the best. Another day is going to be Claude. Another day is going to be Gemini. So following the capacity of what the LLMs and new models that brings, we can switch easily from a user point of view. So in the application I have, I can change, in fact, the LLM I want to use to be sure that I will have the best answer. And not to rely only on one LLMs, and to say, okay, when are you going to implement, I don't know, the multimodality, for example, multimodal, that has been implemented by Gemini. So it's coming just now for Claude and also for ChatGPT, but it's been now 6 months that has been implemented through Gemini. So each one competes with each other, which is each other. So what we want to do, in fact, it's to be able to have the choice, not to rely only on one LLMs. So that's why we build this mesh to ensure that we can use the one that we want and ground specifically, or use a specialized LLM in some technology or some field that we need.
So when it comes to long chain,
yeah,
you said we can provide like information about the context. For example, the company. Is it like some? Will it be applied like the problem with Samsung?
Yeah.
Will it become public or not?
With Longchain?
Yeah.
No. Longchain is a framework.
Okay.
So it's something that you're going to use, a framework like Angular or like anything.
Okay, so it's in top of...
yeah, it's something like it's the framework you use to code your own chatbot, or your own RAG, or your own whatever you want.
Okay, so but it won't be, the information won't become public.
The information is going through Longchain. Longchain is not the LLMs. The LLMs, if we come back here, so the LLMs will be managed here.
Okay, so
So we rely on the Google platform. So all the LLMs and all the information that's going through is going to pass through the Google platform, and it will be scanned, in fact, into your Google platform.
okay, so it depending on the LLM we are using,
Yes.
it could be public or private.
When I say public, it's open source.
Yeah.
Private is mean that you Google, for example, for Gemini, if you deploy it on the Google Cloud platform, it's going to deploy an instance of Gemini on your own Google Cloud platform. So it's going to be your instances, and all the data that's been sent to be used with LLM Gemini is going to stay. In fact, it's not going to be used to train Gemini.
Okay, thank you.
What I want, this one. Okay, so here it is Vertex AI. So you're going into your console, so the Google Cloud console. You search for Vertex AI, and here you are in the dashboard. So what I'm talking about, it's here, Model Garden. You can choose Model Garden. Okay, so here you have a list of, in fact, of model that Model Garden can deploy for you through Vertex AI. So the most common will be Anthropic for Claude, Meta for Llama, Gemini, of course. You don't have OpenAI. If you want, you need to go to Azure for this, and you have some plugin with Hugging Face to deploy some open model, and also Mistral. So it's quite easy. You go here, you select the model that you want. So for Anthropic and Llama, it's packages into the Vertex, so you will pay as you go. But for example, if you want to deploy a model like Stable Diffusions, stable. Okay, don't find it. Stable Diffusion. Okay, if you want, for example, deploy to Stable Diffusion, when you go on the README that say what it's going to do, so what you see that here you are going to deploy. That means that Google plus the Vertex AI is going to use, in fact, is going to deploy for you all the platform to deploy on virtual machine. And then you will be able to use Stable Diffusion. In the case of Anthropic, for example, if you want to use a model, you will just have to enable. That means that they are going to deploy for you, but you will be able, in fact, to use as a pay-as-you-go. So, for example, here I have deployed Llama 3, Llama 3.2 on the project. So it is accessible through API. So we are going to use, in fact, the Vertex AI API to do so. So for this, you have to the URL is going to be normalized. So you have to put the endpoint of the source, the project ID, so the project ID in which the LLM has been deployed, and the region in which you want to execute your request. You have a specific body to pass. So it's going to be specific to Llama, this one. For Claude, for example, it's going also to be specific for Claude. And each has his own way to have their body to be called. So for example, for this one, we pass an image, so it's a multimodal, and we ask him to say what is in this image. Okay, I got to a mile. Okay, it will be long. I don't have so much time. So yeah, I need to fulfill, in fact, all this information to have the HTTP. I didn't check that it has been erased. Okay, never mind. So let's come back to the presentation. So here you have C. In fact, for the Cloud one is in beta. I didn't have access it, but I show you how to, in fact, enable some basic LLM models through Model Garden. The second case is going to be to build a knowledge base with Agent Builder. So for that, we are going to use modules that is provided by Agent Builder. The first one is Data Store. Data Store, it's going to be the way that Google proposed to build RAG on top of data. So data store is going to be able to ingest documentation from a drive, a storage or database, and also is going to be able to index some website. Everything is going to through data store and is going to build for you all your RAG. And then you can build on top, you can create a search app, on top you are going to be able to connect with the data store. The search app in which you are going to ask what you want to know, to search, and then you are going to have an answer. The search app is it can be shared between two ways. First is through a web UI, so you will have a web UI that you can embed into your own application, or you can call also an API to do so. Let's see how it is working. So I'm coming back this time. I'm going to use Agent Builder. So you have just to type Agent Builder here. You're going to come to the services. You're going to be able to create an application. So you will be able to choose the type of application you want. So what we want here is to build a search application. So you choose a bit, you put a name, and so on, name. And when you have a search, you need, in fact, to associate a data store. So what I have done here, I have done some, I bring up some data. So let's imagine that your company wants to propose to the employee to use Communauto to do the commute to the job. So, but they want to provide, in fact, some assistance to the people that to know how to use Communauto and how to prevent for the cost, for example. So, what I'm doing is I grab some data from Communauto. I put everything on the Google Cloud storage. So I have some documentation that's coming from the site. So it's a FAQ, some is coming from the site. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create, in fact, a data store. So you have several options on this. So you have BigQuery. You can request data from BigQuery, a website, and here I'm going to use a cloud storage. Going to one time, so I'm going to get here the path of my Google Cloud Storage where I put all my documents. Continue. Here you will have some option about okay. So here we have some option on how the process is going to ingest, in fact, all your data. So you can do digital parser, OCR, which is if you have a lot of picture into your document, OCR could be the good way if it is not digital documentation that have been generated. Or you have layout parser. Layout parser is going to be, it's an evolution of a parser where you can detect, in fact, tables. If you have a table, so you can analyze it is a table, all the summary and so on. And you can chunk the document to have a small document to store in database and to be searchable. So you create your data store here, and then you have just to associate to the search engine that you want. And here we are. So now we have an application in which you are going to be able to search. So for now, it is working. So it's starting to process, in fact, all the files that he will find on the storage. And for now, we can work on the one that already created, which is this one. So when the application is created and you have linked into a data store, you have this interface where you're going to be able to test, in fact, your search engine. So what is so? So what is it good for this Communauto? So you will have here a summary of the response, and you will also have where he had found this information to generate these responses. You have a list of files that in which you can then redirect your user to see the information where it's coming from. You have three ways of doing the search. So you can do a simple search. Simple search is usually just going to retrieve the document where you can find this information. You have a search with an answer. That means that he's going to build an answer for you on top of the information that he has found in the documents. And you have search with follow-up, which means that you can continue to discuss about the first questions. You can continue to ask more and more details on top of the first question, and it's going to be to remember what he has already said before. And for the integration, so you have two ways to do it. As you say, we can integrate it as a widget. So here you have the code that you can use and put it into your web application. So you will have something like this into your application, or like this if it's on mobile. Or, if you want, you can use this search as an API. So here you have the way how to connect to the API and then call the search through the API. So this is for search with Agent Builder. So now if the limitation of this approach that you cannot select the LLM that you want. Here you rely in fact on Gemini, so on what Google proposed, and also for the RAG you cannot choose the way that you are going to build in fact your RAG is going to be provided by Google. So that's the limitation of this the services that you're going to be stick on what Google is proposed. The other way is to build your own knowledge base, and for that you are going to use LangChain. So how it's going to work? So first you are going to, for the yellow dots, is going to be the injection part. First, you are going to have a place where you are going to distribute the document that you want to ingest for your knowledge base. For example, here, if we took the example that I have done, so I put documentation on the cloud storage. I will use an event app. That means that each time a document is pushed on the cloud storage, it's going to push into a cloud run, so a jobs. So that means that I receive a new document, I have to ingest it. So we are going to build with LangChain an embeddings application, which is going to take the document, read it, chunk. So that means it's going to split the document by parts, and for each part is going to embed it. So it's going to build a vector representation of this document, and once the vector representation is done, it will store the line of this specific into Cloud SQL, in which we are going to enable PG vector, which will allow us to manage, in fact, vectorization. And for that, to do the vectorization, we are going to use LLM. So LLM propose most of the time embeddings. It's a way to create your vector. So you are going to ask into your LMS, embed for me this text and find and return me a vector. One is done, so all the documents will be stored in the vector store. So then when you are going to ask a question for a specific knowledge base, what is going to happen? Then you will build with LangChain. You will receive the questions. So the question will be also embedded. So you are going to embed with LLMH. It's important to use the same embedding engine to ensure that the vector that you retrieve is going to be close, use the same methodology as encoding. So you are going to vectorize to embed your questions. When you have embedded, you have a vector from your question, you are going to search. So you will use a vector search into your Cloud SQL to see, okay, this vector, find me all the closest vector that you find for this specific vector. So it's going to send you some 1, 2, 3, or 4 vector, and each vector you will have associated the chunk, the text that has been associated to this vector. And from that, you will have the text. So what you have to do then is to call the LLM with a question and all the text that you have found into the Cloud SQL database, and you will ask your LLM to generate a response from this text. That's how you ground your LLM with specific data. And then when you have the answer, you send it back. So this is the way that if you want to do your own RAG system, not depending on the Google services, but everything is done. So you have to do some code, but everything can then be deployed on the Google Cloud Platform. The last use case that I want to review with you, it's the assistants. So we're going more and more to build some virtual assistants. So here this is an anatomy of virtual assistant. So virtual assistant is building in 3 blocks. The first one is the goal. So for an assistant, you have to define which has a goal of this assistant. And to achieve this goal, you have to define with him some instruction to say, okay, to achieve your goal, you will have to do this step-by-step instruction to accomplish the goal. And the last one is you are going to provide some tools. So some box of tools that is going to be used to be able to to achieve the goal. Tools can be a knowledge base. You can say, look for this knowledge base if the question is about something. You can use this API to get information. So this is the toolbox that you have to provide to your assistants to be able to do it. You have plenty of framework that will be able to build for your assistant. LangChain. So LangChain has a party to build agents. You have CrewAI, you have AutoGen from Microsoft, and you have Google with Vertex AI agent. And it is what we are going to see here. So how does it work? So you have to define the set of tools. So for now, Google proposes you to be able to use a data store as a tool. An open API specification, you can say, so here my open API, so you can ask question using this API. Or you can also do function calling, which means that you can describe some codes to say, okay, call this function and get the result for the response. All these tools will be packaged and used into an agent. So in the agent, you will describe, in fact, what you want the agent to do. And also, so this agent will be able to be integrated as a widget into your web application, or you can access it with an API. Let's see, for example, here we go. So here I have built an agent, which is Community Assistant. So it's going to be the same as the search one, but instead of just looking to the knowledge base, I'm going to associate, in fact, an agent who is going to be able to call an API from Community to get, in fact, to do a trip estimation. So for the agent, so I'm going to say, okay, your goal is to be an assistant for Community. So you're going to be able to answer all the questions. And I'm going to set set of instructions. So first one is to say hello to the user. And I will say that if you want, this user wants to have a trip cost, you will call the agent, which will be responsible to get you the estimation. Otherwise, you will call the FAQ. So the FAQ will be the data store that we have created before. And also I got some complementary instructions that if he cannot answer, try to ask the user if he have understood correctly the answer and if he wants to ask something, and to be polite to say goodbye if it is finished. So here I have available tools. So I have associated the data store which we have built before here, and I have a second agent which is a trip estimation. So for my trip estimation, so I say that it's an assistant that will be able to provide a cost estimation for the trip. I give him some instructions on how you will be able to call the API, and I will set this. So and the tools is here. So I have declared my API like this. So I have provided an OpenSpec API on how to use the API. So here you have a preview on how to use it. So we can take in, so hello. Okay, how can I rent a car? So he gave me an answer. I don't know if you see correctly. Okay, to rent a car. So maybe we can ask here. I want. Sorry, I will pause the micro. Today a round trip to Quebec for 3 days. departing today at 5 p.m. and coming back around 6 p.m. Okay. I want for 3 hours today. 15 kilometers. Is the cost? So he sent me an answer back. So he said they're going to cost me $22. What we have with this preview, we can see that he had called the agent, so the trip estimation. He has sent the answer, and what has been done by the trip with the agent. So he has called the API. We can see here the API has been called. Why I can? Okay. Called the API, so he had fulfilled correctly all the data. He has done the distance, and this is what the Communauto API answer. And from this JSON, he was able to say that the trip is going to cost this. So this is how you can build an agent with Agent Builder. So, what next? So we are going to be, the Swift is going to be more agentic, so we are going to try to build some assistant who is going to be able to, in fact, doing more stuff, to reasoning, to plan, and to take some autonomous actions in our place. So we are going to see more and more virtual assistants, and it's going to be the way that we are going to use, in fact, generative AI in the future. The second point also is that we are going to have more and more LLMs, but flexible LLMs. So we are going to have small LLMs to execute some common tasks, and also some LLMs who are going to be able to run on device. So Google is already starting to have this with the Android. Apple is going to do the same, and Meta say that it's going to provide an open source model that we are going to be able to run on a mobile device, for example. And that's it. That's the 2 points that we are going to move forward in the next months, in the next years, around generative AI. And just remember that now that you know what kind of platform you can build and what kind of superpower you can provide to your users and to the application, that every prompt that we create sends a carbon footprint. So you need to think about the sustainability of your application. And I have finished. So thank you.